right, let's talk about how you're in the team now, and then the sort of hard work begins for a player at that point, because it's all about cementing your place in that international squad. How is it like? Because as you said, you're doing a bit of PT, and maybe at this point you're really looking to just get games under your belt. At this point, have you made it to a Premier 15s team, or are you still working in the Ospreys setup, the women's Ospreys setup, and doing internationals? Or how was that 5 years between 2015 and 2019, or 2014 to 2019?
I didn't sign for Bristol until 2019. So I played then in the Welsh Prem, which obviously I don't know if you know anything about like local rugby in Wales, but it's not probably where it needs to be. Hence why a lot of us like play over the border. So I was just playing for Swansea for the majority of that time, and luckily we were quite like a dominant force within the Welsh Prem. So yeah, I stayed with them, and obviously it was easy to get to and from training. It's only like 20 minutes away. But yeah, so that was probably between getting capped and 2019. I was playing for Swansea, and then we had regional rugby a couple of weekends here and there throughout the year, which obviously would boost. They'd normally play them just before Six Nations, so girls would get a bit more competitive rugby before Six Nations squads were announced. Yeah. And then a lot of our girls then had signed for Gloucester, or we had already had a couple in Bristol with Snowy and stuff. And yeah, Kim Oliver, who was the Bristol coach at the time, just texted me and asked if I wanted to join Bristol, and I thought now is probably a good time as any. I think I was 22, I think. Yes, maybe. I don't actually know. And yeah, I just thought like now is probably a good time to kind of challenge myself in a different way. I was very comfortable at Swansea. Like all the girls were like my best friends and stuff. And I obviously didn't want to kind of get stagnant and stuff. So I was like, now's a good time to kind of push my boundaries a little bit and play in a league that's competitive week in, week out. And yeah, I've been at Bristol then ever since.
And that's all she wrote. How was that decision? How was that decision though? Because obviously you do get that text from the Bristol coach, which is, I assume that's flattering in itself that people are aware of you to come and play. But is that a big decision? Because like you said, so many external factors. Once again, Keira the human at this point also has to take into account Keira the rugby player, because these two are not. I never want to say you're the same person, because there's more to life than an athlete than just the sport they play. But I mean, like there's so many external factors that you now have to consider if you make that switch. Was there a long process thinking about that one, or was it a case of I get to go play against the best with the best? So as virtue of just like osmosis, I grow. How was that decision for you when that first text came through?
My initial reaction was like, I need to do it. So it was kind of like I wanted to do it, but I knew that for a rugby purpose, I knew that I needed to as well.
Okay.
So obviously I had to like sit down with my parents and like work out like how it would actually look, because at the time I was living in Swansea, and like the traveling, it was like an hour and 40 minutes to and from Bristol. So it was just kind of working out all them sort of factors as well. But then looking at it purely from a rugby point of view, it was definitely what was needed. It was just much more professional than training once a week at a Welsh club and then playing on a weekend. Like, we were training 2-3 times a week. We had gym, S&C, physio, and then a competitive game on the weekend. So to set you up for test match rugby, it was probably exactly where you needed to be. And I think I know I personally definitely benefited from making the move, and especially in the last 2 years since like Dave has come in and we moved obviously to the high performance center. I think I've definitely seen a change again. So yeah, and obviously the level of care that we get with Bristol from an S&C and medical point of view is probably one of the best, as well as the care we get with Wales, we also get like really good care with Bristol as well. So like it's nice that there's no drop off when we're at club, because they're both, you know, equally as good as each other. And for me, that was a massive factor of making the move. Is if I had, you know, I had a couple of like well pretty bad injuries in 2020, and I think if I was playing for Swansea or a Welsh team, like I would have really struggled to have the surgery that I needed and like the recovery process after it. Whereas in Bristol, you know, they paid for my surgery, like my rehab was, I knew exactly what I was doing. So it was basically like being at Wales, but at club level. And I think that's the kind of, that's coming out I look at when I'm playing, is like, God, what's the physio in S&C like? Because God, injury prone over here.
That's good. I love that they take such good care of you as well. I was going to ask about the injuries. So
Mm.
yeah, we made it sound like there was like a nice happy 5 years of you just skip down to training every day and just picked up Welsh jerseys with reckless abandon. But you did. So what you tore your hamstring?
Yeah.
And what was, because you had 2 really bad injuries, did you not? It was, you tore the hamstring once, and what was the other one?
Yeah, so hamstring, and then my syndesmosis on my ankle, on the other leg.
So couldn't even just have one leg, you had to do something on both.
Yeah, both.
So how does these affect you and your life? Because obviously, like you said, you're lucky enough, you're in the new Bristol High Performance Centre. That place is state of the art. There's football teams that would be proud of that facility. And
yes, very good.
But I imagine, like, even turning up to places like that, you must feel a bit more professional. The right word, you know, you feel like a bit more. Not, the elite's not the right word, but you know what I mean. You're walking into a place and you're like, people have invested the time in this place, so it looks like it's good. We know it's good. But how did these injuries affect you as a person, and having to? Because obviously you've only just joined Bristol really at this point. You've been there what, 8 months, 9 months?
Yeah. So I joined obviously in 2019, and then went away with, I joined in the September. I played a couple of games, then we had autumns with Wales, so we went to we played Spain, the Crochets, the Barbers, and all that sort of stuff. And then when we came back in, literally had a couple of games, then it was Six Nations again. And then obviously COVID hit in that block. And then when we came back in the October time, I think, obviously COVID was still a massive thing, and we had no fans or stuff in the grounds, and it was very strict and things like that. So yeah, we played Exeter, first game of the season in Sandy Park, and yeah, I tore my hamstring in that game. Had surgery on that, and then had 5 months of rehab with Bristol. Went into Wales in the Six Nations in 2021, and then tore my syndesmosis about 2 weeks after coming back properly. So I played a game for Bristol, and then the week after went into Wales training, and then done my syndesmosis. So I had 2 surgeries in the space of 5 and a bit months on different body parts.
I just feel so bad for you. I know this has happened a while ago now, but you still feel bad when you hear somebody has to go, because you do what a lot of people really struggle to realize, but a lot of people also appreciate, is the effort it takes to rehab as well. There's so much of a mental aspect to rehab. It's
harder than just there's different demands, don't get me wrong, but I look at the girls that are rehabbing with us at the minute, like Meg, Alicia, Gwen, and those girls, and I'm like, they're in the gym 3-4 hours a day, doing a rehab session, an upper session, physio treatment, it's conditioning, it's really, really hard. Physically it's hard, but then mentally you've always got to be switched on. Whereas it sounds bad, but when you're not injured, you just turn up, you get your gym sessions done, you do your skills, you do your rugby, whatever it is that you've got that day, and you can kind of go home and switch off. Whereas obviously I've moved in with Gwen, and she's had ankle surgery about 6 weeks ago, and she's always got to do something. So even when she comes home from training, she's got to like ice it, game ready, like power dot it or complex it. And I'm like, she never gets time to like just switch off. She's just sat there massaging her scar, and I'm like, oh God,
You poor thing. I love the thought of you just sat there and like she's just massaging, you just like walk up and you just like give her like a slow hug. You just like, come here.
Yeah, and I'm like, I feel like so bad for them because it's so hard. It's like pre-season times 10.
Yeah, that's it. It's like it's like a never-ending pre-season. You don't have that because what pre-season is normally a month or something. I think they now taper things like month, 6 weeks. So but you're doing it for 6 months. Some people.
Yeah, and like especially like the girls who have longer term injuries, like it's just mentally because you're not going to play for like 6 to 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's just another element that makes it so much harder than what it needs to be. So
and then you've got to do pre-season effectively after it as well because you're not fit just due to being injured.
Yeah, it's on like honestly, it's the worst. It's horrible.
Well, touch wood, it's not going to happen again.
Yeah, not for a while.
Not for a while. Hey, thank you for listening to this Clips episode on YouTube. And then if you want to hear the whole podcast, you can find them on Apple or Spotify, as well as the full video version on this YouTube channel, alongside all the other great content we produce on a weekly basis. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you again on another Clips episode or in the full episode podcast. Tweet us, tag us, let us know what you thought. All the links are down in the description. It means the world that you guys come and support us, so thank you very much.